The oil sector, well, in the last couple of years, Nigeria has had challenges in terms of production, of course, what with that Niger Delta crisis. But it looks like there's been some relative silence of peace in that area. And now we're looking at more in terms of production. Just recently, the NNPC GMD actually did announce that Nigeria was producing more by about 300,000 barrels extra. So that puts our production to around 2.7 million barrels per day. But here to talk about that and some other issues in the oil and gas sector is Kayode Ekunda. He's an energy expert, and we'll be looking at this issue together. Thank you so much, Kayode, for being here.
Thank you.
Now, of course, obviously, it would be good news to the federal government hearing that our crude oil production is up. We're doing perhaps between 2.6 and 2.7 million barrels per day. So, of course, that translates to higher revenues for us.
No, it's
but
not.
I was going to come to that, but we do have our OPEC quota. Being a member of the OPEC, 2.2 million barrels is what our quota is.
Yeah. Producing 2.7 does not immediately translate to money
to higher earnings
into the
us.
economy, because there is OPEC that regulates what the federal government exports, and currently we are exporting our quota. Last month we overproduced by a little quantity of 20,000 barrels, which is good for us. But right now we are able to meet our obligation to international community in terms of meeting our OPEC quota, which is good for us. Because when we look back 3-4 years ago, we could not be able to meet up with the quota because of the crisis in Niger Delta. But we thank God today the market is back, and we are making more money into the economy. And if the crisis in the current sanctions on Iran over the nuclear weapon persists, UN has done that, EU has done that, and if that persists and there is no solution to the crisis, more powerful countries like India, like Korea, like Japan, like even China, we look up to Nigeria for more. For more oil.
So does that mean would that mean we would now have to exceed our OPEC
no,
quota?
We can overproduce. It's allowed, but there are certain levels you can overproduce to. It's not only Nigeria that will benefit from the crisis.
Okay, so if we have 2.2 million barrels per day as our OPEC quota, how much more of that can we do? You're saying we can step that up a bit, even though it's a stipulated quota for Nigeria from OPEC, OPEC.
As much as we can produce, but there is regulation. We have non-OPEC member too that comes to the market with their unregulated production. So, but because of OPEC is there, it's still regulating the price. Because if Nigeria continue to overproduce to unnecessary level, the price may crash. And you have to regulate the price at the same time.
The market will be flooded with oil.
And if you look at what is happening within the last few days now, the crude oil price is rising. As at yesterday, it was $113 per barrel. Okay, that will be for the Brent. And if the crisis continue, the sanction or the crisis between the U.S. and Iran persists, then possibly we can overshoot what we experienced in 2007, which when we had $140 per barrel. So if the crisis continue, Iran produced almost 2.93 million barrels per day to the export. Even last month, the thing crashed by about 200,000 barrels. So by the time you look at all those things, before the end of this month, there is a possibility that it will drop like 400,000 barrels per day.
So that's obviously better for us.
Better for us, better more money for Nigeria,
to earn more money, obviously. But let's yes, while that is good, we do also know that many of these economies, especially the US and Europe, they're still having that economic fiscal crisis. We've seen many of the countries cutting down on what they spend on, even their exports. China has been the worst hit so far. And, of course, the U.S. Also. And we do know that the U.S. in the last couple of years has been our biggest customer in terms of what we put out there in the oil market. But it looks like that is being replaced by China now.
No,
because the U.S. has cut down on what's,
you see, the problem,
orders it places for our oil.
The problem we had was because of the Niger Delta crisis. You understand? Because at that time we could not meet our obligation. We have to look for another country to support its economy in terms of crude oil supply. But now that the situation is getting better, we are back into it, and definitely they cannot. The U.S. cannot, because our crude oil is one of the best in
yes,
the world today.
light
And it's one of the best. I've seen many countries struggling to be part of our...
Because they say, I hear it's easier to refine.
It's easier, it's very less costly to refine, and it's environmentally friendly. And that's why many countries want to be part of it. Definitely, US cannot do without Nigerian crude oil.
Now, even if we have a country like China, it's the world's second biggest economy, we do know that a lot of they're very industrialized, and so they need this energy, this oil, our oil, to help support their economy. We do know also that exports from the country has dropped. So if China is also having to cut back on what it spends in terms of what it imports, what it pays, on commodities to import into the country, such as our oil, wouldn't that mean less revenues for us? Isn't that something we should be worried about? It might not be an immediate concern, but it's still there. We don't know when this debt crisis will end. It's badly affected what these governments are putting on the table in terms of what they spend on imports. Oil, inclusive, and we do know also that they're looking for other sources of energy anyway.
And that is why you see China coming back to Nigeria, bidding for oil block and all those things. And that is the reason why the PIB is very, very important for many people and many investors to come into the country to bid for crude oil block. But let me be specific in this case. If China cut back in fuel demand, that does not mean that the world has cut back in fuel demand.